Welcome back to FootballerXP. Today we're going to teach you how to improve as a defender in football. This video was requested by one of our subscribers. Big shout out to Hashir Area. Every position in football has a defensive duty, but quite surprisingly, most coaches don't actually teach players how to defend effectively. We often hear coaches say things like, "Don't stab," or "get goal side" during matches, but these phrases are hardly a substitute for teaching players to defend. So it doesn't come as much shock that pretty much all beginners and many advanced players don't really know how to defend to a satisfactory level. In today's video, we will teach you how to approach an attacker, the defensive stance you should use, and how to tackle your opponents properly, and a few tips on how to defend effectively. The defending approach. Quickly approach the player with the ball by sprinting towards them. The faster you put pressure on the attacker, the more pressure they will be under to make a decision. High pressure often forces the opponent to make mistakes. Offensive players have less time to look up and find a good pass and won't be able to progress deep into your half of the field. Slow down quickly. Novice defenders apply high pressure but are easy to beat. They like to rush to the ball, so it's easy for good players to cut away from them. Make yourself harder to beat by slowing down a few meters away from the player who has the ball. Approach like you're sprinting hard towards a player. But remember to quickly slow down your approach by taking small steps and decreasing your speed as you get closer to the player. Determining the ideal time to slow down takes practice. Defend at an angle. You want to make dribbling as hard as possible for the attacker. When you defend at a slight angle, if your body turns slightly to the side, you make it harder for the attacking player to move in both directions. You can force them in the direction you want them to go and make them use their weaker foot. For example, you defend at a right angle, forcing the attacker to your left. The sideline is on your left, so now the attacker doesn't have much space to work with if he chooses to dribble. The defensive stance. Lower your center of gravity, bend your knees, and lower your butt slightly. When you stay in this position, you will move easier and have a good balance. Put your arms out naturally to improve your balance. Use your arms to brush the attacker's arms away when they try to dribble past you. Tackling in football. Getting the defensive approach and stance right is essential. Master both and you won't need to tackle as often, since the attacker will pass the ball quickly. As a result, you won't get beat as often. Tackling isn't an exact science. How and when you tackle depends on the situation and instinct. When a player turns his back to you, always apply intense pressure. Defend both sides of the player. If you put too much pressure on one side, he can turn to the other side and beat you. Good defenders create fear in attackers by putting unrelenting pressure on them the second they make a move. Tackling takes timing and balance. Learning to tackle effectively takes a lot of practice. You will learn what works best in different situations as you become more experienced. Off-the-ball defending. Off-the-ball defending comes down to two main things: staying in a good position and staying with your opponent. Where you should position yourself depends on the position you're playing and the situation. In general, you're in a good defensive position when you are in a valuable space on the field. For instance, you're in a good position when playing wingback if you have the sideline covered. Stay close enough to the sideline that you can sprint towards a through ball played down the line, but far enough away from the sideline so that you can cover your opponent if they make an inside run. This might all sound confusing, but trust me, it quickly becomes second nature when you play games at your preferred position. Always stay closer to your goal than to your opponent. This is what we call staying goal side. And now, we're going to leave you with a few tips that you can use in matches or anytime when you go out and practice your defense. Use the offside trap. The offside trap can be extremely effective against teams that play through balls to a fast forward. To perform an offside trap, one player, usually the center back, signals and every defender moves forward quickly. Signal for an offside trap a few seconds before the ball is passed. Even if you don't use an offside trap regularly, you should still be aware of offside. If you want to learn more about offsides, click the link above to go watch our Basics of Football video on offsides. The next tip is to tell teammates who to mark. If you notice an unmarked opposing player, immediately tell a teammate to mark him. Prevent an easy goal by keeping on the lookout for open players and informing your teammates. Don't be afraid to foul. Never tackle with the intent to injure. Having said that, do not be afraid to get called for a foul. When you worry about fouling, you defend less aggressively, and this can cost you and your team. Fouls will happen. They often don't cause harm to your team. You'll be much more effective playing aggressive and getting called for fouls occasionally than playing timid and avoiding fouls. And lastly, remember to keep your anger and frustration under control. I'm still amazed at how often advanced players commit pointless fouls, often resulting in yellow and red cards, simply because they lose control of their emotions. Football can be frustrating. You will get angry. You can let your anger and frustration get the better of you and hurt your team, or you can use it as motivation to play better. Tell yourself, I will not let my anger control me. I will use it as motivation to succeed. Control your anger and frustration, and you will defend better. And that wraps up today's video, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you get notified every week we release a new video. Another big shout out to Hashir Area for requesting this video, and if you are a subscriber watching this video, feel free to leave a request for what videos you'd like us to make next. I'm T-Man, and I'll see you next week on FootballerXP.